because of one guy, Caleb Williams, the number one pick, the Heisman winner out of USC. He's a stupendous talent. But no matter how gifted you are, there is a way to play quarterback in the NFL. Ask Johnny Manziel. Backyard football doesn't work. It just doesn't. I don't care how gifted you are. It doesn't work. Lamar Jackson has always been better in the pocket. A 102 passer rating last year in the pocket. Better in the pocket than anybody will give him credit for. Yes, Caleb is gifted. But there are just things you can't do. Ad-lib your way to wins. So Patrick Mahomes and the great ones can do this. You think, the behind-the-back stuff, he's practiced that 200 times in practice. 97% or higher of Patrick Mahomes is structured. It's under control. It's coached. He plays within the offense, within the pocket. And about 3 times a game, he goes big time. Right? Michael Jordan lived on 17-footers. And twice a game, he did something you'd never seen. So Caleb, in week 1, felt like if Mahomes is 97% under structure in the pocket, Caleb felt like a 50-50 proposition. And you can't improv in the NFL. Now, you can blame the offensive line, but the late comedian Robin Williams, Patrick Mahomes, the great ones, they make you think they're improvising, and they're not. And they can audible out of trouble. That's the gift of Brady and Manning and Breeze and Mahomes. They don't face the pressure regularly because they can audible out of it and see it. The pocket is your friend. Seek comfort there. That's where you lay your head at night. Home. C.J. Stroud's a great example of this. C.J. Stroud rushed only 39 times last year. Think about this. 50% of his rushes. This is how intentional C.J. Stroud is. Or touchdowns or first downs. He runs when he has to. And he can.
Love that.
But 50% were touchdowns or first downs. That's intentional. That's being able to see things coming. That's having an idea pre-snap. I may move here. That's the way to do it. Caleb looked out of sorts, a little disorganized, ad-libbing to a fault, and Greg Cosell yesterday discussed it.
He was very focused on just executing the play call, whether that receiver was open or not. That's very common for rookie quarterbacks in their first start. So he made a lot of throws that he probably shouldn't have made. The ball comes out of his hand beautifully. We all know that. He needs to really get a better innate understanding of the pocket and how to play from the pocket. He tends to move and create his own pressure. He tends to climb the pocket and step up when he doesn't need to. Now, in college, maybe you can get away with that at times, but in the NFL, you're not going to get away with that.
Make it intentional. And so much of this, Brady talks about, so much of avoiding pressure is pre-snap. Can you read the defense, kind of contextualize what's going to happen before it happens? That is this league. Johnny Manziel Nick Saban couldn't stop Johnny Manziel in college with all those first-round NFL defensive players couldn't stop him. Johnny Manziel, 5 minutes into the league, you're like, yeah, it's not going to work at all. That's not going to work at all. And after I watched week 1, I'm like, it'll work because he's more talented than Manziel, but that's not going to work at a high level at all. J-Mac with the news.
Yeah. So, all right, there's a few things that I kind of want to unpack here. I think it's just being like, I totally hear what Colin is saying, and I don't disagree, honestly. But I just think I feel like we're kind of just piling on Caleb at this point, because even Greg Cosell said, like, what he did essentially is to be expected, right, from a rookie quarterback. And it's interesting because on one side they're saying, listen, he's being like kind of too freestyle, right, 50-50. Too freestyle, too backyard. And on the other side, Greg Cosell saying one of his problem was that he was trying to execute what the play call was like too much and was making throws that he probably shouldn't have. And so it's just kind of interesting because those are in a lot of ways, those are two competing things. Unless you're saying he was trying to execute that play so much that he was then trying to do everything he can to get it done rather than maybe being more adaptable, which is definitely a possibility. And again, comparing to what, say, a Mahomes or a Tom Brady can do pre-snap and avoiding the pressure and all of that, like, it's like that stuff's really going to take time. That's going to take a minute or two to kind of get your legs from underneath you. And great coaching as well. Um, um, Tom Brady has talked extensively about understanding defenses because of Bill Belichick, how they had their weekly meeting, and Bill Belichick every week would be like, this is what they're going to do to stop you, right? And so, there was a certain point where Tom Brady just kind of saw all the defenses. He just understood defense probably better than any other quarterback. And it's funny because now Andy Reid kind of takes a different approach because obviously him being offensively, and he's just like, if this is what the defense brings to you, this is what you do. It's just a different approach, but very similar outcome for for that matter. Same level of mastery. And again, that's just going to take some time for Caleb to be able to understand some of those things. And yeah, he is going to rely on some of his athleticism to the best of his abilities, but then also he has to learn when he can and when he can't. I think the intentionality of CJ Stroud is a really great example, and kind of what Greg Cosell said, that he's, Caleb is also kind of creating the pressure. And if you remember, we have a perfect example of that in preseason when Caleb kind of had a little bit of happy feet, made like an awesome throw, but then like the cooler heads prevailed and they said, yeah, that was a great throw, great highlight play, but like it was completely unnecessary. It was completely unnecessary. And I think Nick Wright said, like, kind of like, who cares? Footwork's overrated. And then I remember a bunch of other people were like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not how football, not how football works. And it is, it's interesting. You got to maybe kind of think about how much does Caleb need to be developed, because Caleb's raw talent is absolutely positively there. The raw talent is just filled to the top. It's just now, how adaptable is he? How much can he grow as a football player? Because I'm still seeing people just being so quick just to be like, he's bad, he's bad, he's bad. But other people are saying, this is just a good reminder of why rookie quarterbacks, it's very advantageous for them to sit for the year. And I think that's true, but I don't think we have to just jump to these conclusions after 1 week. And unfortunately, I think there's some pretty decent potential that he doesn't look so good against the Texans. I think he should look better against the Texans than he did against the Titans, or at least more comfortable to a degree. But it's hard for me to imagine that Caleb Williams is going to have 3 touchdowns, 280 yards, 19 for 23 against the Texans. Maybe he'll surprise me, who honestly really knows. But it's hard for me to envision that, because I truly do believe that the Texans are a top team. I really, really do. So unless the Bears can really, the defense can really make things uncomfortable for the Texans offense, and CJ Stroud stop the run game, contain CJ and maybe even force some turnovers and give Caleb some extra possessions and short field, then yeah, right, then maybe you can see some of those numbers. So it's going to be a really exciting game that I am beyond excited to see. This is definitely going to be, can't miss TV for sure. Bears versus Texans, CJ Stroud. I mentioned this in a previous video, like how CJ Stroud was like, he was overlooked in the draft for the most part. Like, he got some hype, but for the most part, going into the season, like, a lot of people were like, CJ Stroud's not it. CJ Stroud's not it. I think even Colin said that. And then obviously, like, it took him a minute or two, but then he hit the ground running, and then everybody was all over CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, king. And then now this season, like, a lot of that buzz has already died down, mainly because of Caleb Williams. We love shiny new things, and now there's way more attention on Caleb Williams. There was more attention on Caleb Williams not playing so well against the Titans than CJ Stroud and the Texans looking awesome against the Colts. And it was just an interesting observation to kind of see the media's a focus on what they were focusing and what they were elevating, what they were continuing to talk about more. And now we get essentially the old versus the new, even though CJ Stroud is hardly old, but he already feels like old news, according to the media, at least. And so it's just going to be really, really interesting to kind of see this matchup, to see these quarterbacks. They're going to compare each other a lot too, because I think CJ Stroud at the minimum is going to be the front runner for the young quarterback that a lot of these other players are kind of chasing to a degree, right? It seems more doable that Caleb within the next couple of years could theoretically surpass CJ Stroud in terms of who people think is a better or top quarterback obviously the goal is to have him surpass Patrick Mahomes, but he's got years there's years and many rings that you got to win. CJ Stroud does not have that resume just yet. So to me, he's probably one of the better, if not the best quarterback that is achievable, that like technically a Caleb Williams can like even surpass this year or next year. Not saying he will, but it's at least in the realm of the possibility. He cannot surpass Patrick Mahomes this season. It's not possible, right? It's just not. But Caleb could theoretically have an even better year than CJ Stroud did in his rookie year. So that's why I think this matchup between the two of them should be really fun, really interesting. Kind of comparing their styles and what they each do respectively. But I think everything that Greg Cosell said is all things that Caleb will be able to work on. And I think that, and this is what I said in my previous video, that like this is the time now that he's going to be doing this type of work with Shane Waldron. Like this is the type where we learn, can he grow? Can he evolve week to week? Can he learn something that he's doing wrong or what he needs to work on and apply it into this next week, into the games that follow? We should be able to see measurable growth, although it's not going to be linear, right? It's definitely going to be up and down, up and down, up and down, but we want to see that trend upward. That's all I'm really at the end of the day looking for from Caleb Williams. Am I trying to find out if he can just be this perfect quarterback, week 2 now? No, that those expectations are just too absurd. I just want to see, can he get better, but then also give him the grace to still make concrete mistakes. It just feels that every mistake that Caleb makes at this point, because he got off to the start that he did, and we were already going to see this for the most part, any mistakes he makes, but I think it would have been a little bit different if he kind of hit the ground running and had just a little bit better of a week 1 start. But I think because that was the introduction to majority of people of who Caleb Williams is, every little mistake, every sack he takes, every turnover, every when he moves around the pocket when he shouldn't, will be magnified until maybe he can kind of get a little bit more positive momentum going. But he's got a tough schedule to do that against. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you believe that Caleb Williams will be able to bounce back in the second start? Do you think some of the issues that he showed in week 1 are just who Caleb is, or that those are just things that a young rookie quarterback will be able to work on and develop and get better at? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.